It was supposed to be an ordinary day. March 27, 1977, a Sunday. Vacationers were on their way to paradise. Two of the largest commercial aircrafts in the world, KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, were rerouted to a small airport in the Canary Islands and into the history books for all the wrong reasons. Los Rodeos Airport, located in Tenerife, wasn't even their final destination. A terrorist bombing had closed the nearby Gran Canaria airport and traffic was diverted. Tenerife wasn't prepared for the sudden influx of aircrafts. The runway was limited, the taxiways were narrow, and worse, that afternoon, thick fog rolled in. It wasn't just the weather, it was a perfect storm of small human decisions that, layered together, led to the deadliest aviation disaster in history. The KLM flight had just refueled. The Pan Am flight was slowly taxiing ahead on the same runway, trying to find the proper exit. But visibility had dropped to almost zero. The control tower could barely see, and pilots couldn't spot each other. In aviation, clarity is everything. But on that day, a single misinterpreted phrase from air traffic control would prove catastrophic. The KLM captain, a respected and experienced pilot, believed he had been cleared for takeoff. In reality, he had only been cleared to stand by. With full thrust, the massive Boeing 747 began to accelerate directly toward the Pan Am aircraft, still on the runway. The Pan Am crew heard the roar of engines, but it was too late. The two planes collided at high speed. The resulting explosion was so violent, it could be seen from miles away. Flames tore through both aircrafts. Of the 583 people who lost their lives, many perished instantly. Others died trapped in burning cabins. Only 61 people survived. Those seated near the rear of the Pan Am flight, they managed to crawl out through gaps in the fuselage before the flames took hold. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but the damage had already been done. There was no time, no miracle that could reverse what had just occurred. The investigation that followed uncovered a series of mistakes, none massive on their own, but devastating when combined. The KLM pilot's eagerness to depart, the ambiguous phrasing from air traffic control, the absence of ground radar at Los Rodeos Airport, the dense fog that blinded everyone, the stress, the pressure, the confusion. This wasn't just a crash, it was a lesson carved in smoke and steel. Following the tragedy, the entire aviation industry changed. Phraseology between pilots and control towers was redefined. Ambiguous terms like "okay" or "takeoff" without clearance were eliminated. Crew Resource Management, CRM, was introduced, training that empowered co-pilots and flight crew to speak up, challenge decisions, and avoid over-deference to authority. It was a painful reminder that experience doesn't make anyone infallible, and that communication can be the thin line between safety and disaster. Tenerife's runway was eventually upgraded. Newer technologies, including ground radar, were installed at airports worldwide, but for the families of those lost, no protocol change could ever fill the void. Among the passengers were vacationers, students, parents, and crew. Their names are etched into memorials, not just in Spain, but across aviation history. This wasn't a bombing, this wasn't mechanical failure, this was human error, multiplied. And that's what makes the Tenerife disaster so haunting, because it could have been avoided if just one phrase had been clearer, if just one person had hesitated, if visibility had been slightly better. Instead, the world witnessed a tragedy that defined a generation of aviation reform. Today, pilots around the globe are trained on what happened that day. Their manuals mention it, their simulators reenact it, because behind every safety protocol written since lies the memory of Tenerife. In the final moments, passengers sat unaware of what was about to happen. A takeoff that was never meant to begin, a collision that never had to occur. And so, Fatal Timeline remembers those 583 souls, not just for how they died, but for what their story taught us all. If you found this story impactful, subscribe to Fatal Timeline for more real events that should never be forgotten.